Hello everyone. Let me ask you something. Have you ever heard someone say that every animal, plant, and human was created exactly as they are today and they will never change? This old belief was called the theory of special creation. According to it, all living beings were created in their present form, diversity has always been the same, and the earth is just about 4,000 years old. For centuries, this view was accepted because it was supported by religious texts. But here's the problem: it left no explanation for how species adapt, why some disappear, and how new ones arise. Nature, however, shows us constant change. Species appear, vanish, and transform over time. This meant science had to look deeper to find real answers to life's diversity. Let's sail back to the 19th century aboard a ship called the HMS Beagle. On this voyage, a young naturalist named Charles Darwin observed animals, plants, and fossils all around the world. He found striking similarities between living and extinct species. For example, the finches on the Galapagos Islands were closely related, yet each had a beak shape adapted to its food source. Think of it like visiting different states in India and noticing how people look similar, but their food habits and lifestyles are uniquely adapted to their environment. From these observations, Darwin drew a bold conclusion: life forms are not fixed. Some had gone extinct, and new forms had arisen in their place. This was the beginning of the revolutionary idea of gradual evolution. So, how does this gradual change happen? Darwin noticed that every population has variations, small differences in traits like color, size, or behavior. Some of these variations make survival easier. For example, animals that blend into their surroundings escape predators better. Those that survive longer also reproduce more. Darwin called this process natural selection. Nature acts like a filter, selecting traits that help survival and reproduction. And here's the key: Darwin defined fitness not as strength, but as reproductive fitness. In other words, those who leave more offspring are the ones nature considers fit. Think about the peppered moths in England. In polluted areas, darker moths survived better on soot-covered trees, reproduced more, and passed on their dark color. That's natural selection in action. Let's walk through this flowchart and understand how natural selection operates. It all begins with genetic variation, the natural differences in DNA among individuals of a species. These variations, along with influences from the epigenetic environment, give rise to phenotypic variation, the observable traits we can see, like size, color, or behavior. Now, organisms live in a selective environment, meaning that not all traits are equally useful. Some traits give an advantage, while others may not. This leads to what we call differential survival and reproduction. Individuals with favorable traits are more likely to survive, reproduce, and pass on their genes. The result? A shift in genetic variation in the next generation. Over time, advantageous traits become more common, while less favorable ones may disappear. In short, the causes of selection lie in the genetic and environmental differences that create variety. The effects of selection are seen in how populations evolve, with each generation better suited to its environment. This beautiful cycle of variation, survival, and inheritance is the engine that drives evolution by natural selection. But Darwin wasn't alone. Around the same time, another naturalist named Alfred Wallace, working in the Malay archipelago, also realized that species change through natural selection. When Wallace sent his ideas to Darwin, it pushed Darwin to finally publish his famous book on the origin of species in 1859. This reminds us that science is a collective journey. Sometimes, different minds arrive at the same truth, reinforcing its validity. Together, Darwin and Wallace gave the world a new lens. Life forms are not fixed, but constantly evolving through natural processes. Now let's take a step back, not decades, but billions of years. Earth's geological history, with its epochs and eras, is closely tied to the biological history of life. Fossils show us that species lived, thrived, and went extinct in specific geological periods. Dinosaurs, for instance, dominated the Mesozoic era, but they disappeared, making way for mammals. Think of rock layers like the pages of a giant history book. Each layer contains fossils that tell us which organisms lived at that time. This shows us that life is not static, it has always changed with the planet, adapting to new conditions and environments. That's macroevolution, the big story of life across time. Now here's something students often get wrong: Darwin's idea of fitness. Fitness is not about being the fastest or the strongest. It is about who reproduces successfully. A tortoise may be slow, but if it produces many surviving offspring, it is more fit than a faster animal with fewer offspring. So evolution favors traits that improve reproduction, even if they don't necessarily improve strength. Notice how this shifts our thinking. Survival is important, but in evolution, the ultimate winner is the one who passes on their genes to the next generation. That's reproductive fitness. So let's connect the dots. We began with the old idea of special creation, a fixed, unchanging view of life. Then came Darwin's voyage, where he observed variations, extinctions, and the rise of new forms. His idea of natural selection, supported independently by Wallace, gave us the mechanism for evolution. We also saw how geological time and fossil records confirm that life has changed continuously, and how Darwin's concept of fitness is really about reproductive success. Isn't it wonderful to realize that from the smallest insect to humans, every species is part of this grand evolutionary story? I hope this session has opened your eyes to how beautifully connected life is, shaped by millions of years of change. In our next discussion, we'll explore the fascinating evidences of evolution that prove this story beyond doubt. Remember, biology isn't just about definitions, it's the story of life itself, and you are living proof of it. Until next time, keep wondering, keep exploring.